What's up, Cerebral football fans? My name is Steven Hyder. This is Gate City Sports Channel. And today's topic, look, we're talking about the youth movement in the secondary, which from what I've heard, reported is that we're going to get the chance to see that tonight because it looks like another one of these surprising moves that kind of happened as we got down to Sao Paulo and kind of got down there to get ready for this game. We find out that Isaiah Rodgers does not look like he's going to be a go for this game, which means you're going to have some decisions to make upon how you play things. And one of the ways that you could play this, and this is something we've all kind of talked about, is that you're either going to kick Kelee Ringo outside when they go nickel and Quinyon goes inside, or you're going to kick, Quinyon, you're going to keep him outside for the entire game, and you're going to bring Cooper Dejean in. Either way, we know that clearly there's a really high probability that Kelee Ringo, Cooper Dejean, and Quinyon Mitchell, those guys are going to see some snaps tonight. There's a really high probability that against a pretty formidable team. We got a team here in Green Bay that is a decent passing offense. They got a good, young quarterback. They got really good playmakers at the wide receiver spot. No shade being thrown at them because I do think that they are an offense that if they had a better offensive line, I don't care about the PFF ratings, guys. You can look at the individual graded players there and see it's mostly scheme and the quarterback bailing them out. It ain't them winning. They're blocking assignments. You could see right away, if they had a better offensive line, this would be a really, really formidable test, to be quite honest. With that said, we got young guys. I'm expecting there to be some communication errors at times. I'm expecting there to be some hiccups at times. But we got young, fast, talented guys that are young, who, by the way, when I went in and did the research, I found out a little nugget that's kind of interesting to kind of spread along and bring to everyone's attention, which is all these dudes are pretty good in man coverage despite where they may be ranked. To begin with, Quinyon Mitchell, Quinyon's a dog in his rankings, man. Even going back to 22, he was ranked number 11 overall in terms of grading, in terms of man coverage. And then last year, he was ranked number 10 overall in grading in terms of man coverage. And we'll get to Quinyon in a second. I'll give you some of his rundowns. But I'm going to go to the person who I think was the youngest coming in. Kelee Ringo was definitely the youngest of these guys coming into the league. But also, Kelee Ringo was the guy that we knew had the most development to go and has seemed to start taking steps here, right? I mean, last year in the, preseason, we were all a little worried about Kelee. Kelee did not look right in that preseason, going back to 2023. But by the end of the 2023 season, we start to feel a little bit better about Kelee Ringo. Well, I'm going to go through the numbers and just what the Eagles were looking at, what they saw, why, Kelee Ringo was a person they took a chance on. Now, I will say this about Kelee Ringo. Last year, he played a lot on the field side as a field corner. When you play the field corner, you're going to play probably a little bit more zone. You're going to have to, it requires you to have a little bit more fluidity in your hips. I don't think Kelee Ringo is the best suited guy to play on the field corner position, in my opinion. He's very athletically gifted. He's very fast, but he's not a fluid mover, especially laterally and with his hip turns. So, I think them moving him over to compete on the boundary side where that straight line speed, that height, that weight, that strength, that athleticism can be taking advantage of more. Yeah, I think that's the move, guys. I think that's the move where you're like, man, this is what you should be doing. This is how you should be utilizing the player. All right, Kelee Ringo on the 2022 season, okay, his last year that he played with Georgia. We know he's a really young guy. He came in the league. I don't think the dude was even able to order a beer yet. All right, he had 176 snaps where he was in man coverage, okay? He played 177 snaps for the team that was playing, but he was clearly used as a blitzer or something like that, okay? He was graded out at a 66.1, which ranked 148th overall. Guys, this thing goes, it's, 11 pages deep, so it's out of a lot of guys. And I did filter this, by the way, by 20% of the total snap coverages, so that way we did exclude some people who barely played and are skewing the data. All right, Kelee Ringo. He was targeted 28 times in man coverage, only giving up 12 completions for a 42.9% completion rate. He gave up 170 yards in total and looks like about 22 yards of yak. His average depth of target in man coverage was 11.9 yards, all right? And he had 2 forced incompletions, 1 pass breakup for a 7% forced incompletion rate. I think that's what's really holding him back in the rankings, if I'm being honest, guys, is that 7% forced incompletion rate. That's, I think, skewing some of the data, because if you look at the raw numbers, like how much he's being targeted, how little he gave up in the passing game, there's not a whole lot here. I don't know why he'd be ranked as low as they got him ranked. It's a little questionable, to be quite honest. All right. Because, I mean, he played a lot of snaps, guys, to be fair. I don't quite get what they're going here. I'm going to look at missed tackles. Yeah, they don't even, let me see if they have him credited with a missed tackle, perhaps. Maybe he missed a tackle or two, and maybe that's what's skewing him a little bit. Let's take a look down here. So that's man coverage. I'm gonna scroll this over so I can see that data. All right, man coverage. All right, miss and missed tackle rate. So he didn't miss any tackles. Did he give up any touchdowns in man coverage? I'm looking to see why he's rated the way he is, because the raw numbers, this is why I don't always agree with crap that PFF and other people put out, because I think it's very subjective at times. He didn't give up a touchdown. He didn't miss a tackle, gave up less than 50% completion rate when he was there. I mean, I guess they're overly penalizing him for the lack of ball production, for the fact that he only had two forced incompletions, one pass breakup for a 7% rate on that. But his quarterback ratings, passer ratings when he's being, not quarterback rating, but passer rating when he's being targeted in man coverage was only 48.2. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Snaps per target, and we'll go with snaps per reception. We'll go over those numbers. Snaps per target and then snaps per reception. So snaps per target, 13.6. Snaps per reception, 9. I think they drastically underrated his play in man coverage, to be quite honest. Kelee Ringo is going to be interesting, right? Because this is a good receiving core coming up. We're going to learn a lot about these young guys. And I hope people have got patience. Yes, they're going to get beat from time to time, guys. They're young. They got to learn the defense. They got to communicate. There's going to be error when you have young guys out there. There's going to be some errors that get made here. They're not going to be flawless. I'm afraid we're going to get that overreaction to where, these guys still have some learning to do. And then people are going to be clamoring for Isaiah Rodgers to come back. In my opinion, I would like to see Kelee Ringo, when they move Quinyon Mitchell inside, I'd like to see Kelee Ringo come out there, just because I think that gives you on the backside boundary, that gives you a run enforcer from the secondary. Kelee Ringo will come up and stick you. That's not really Isaiah Rodgers' game. That's not Darius Slay's game. Kelee, that's his game. He'll get physical with you. Like he don't mind that part of the game, to be quite honest. All right, now let's go. Let's talk about our 2 draft picks from last year. If you thought Kelee Ringo was being undervalued, just wait until you hear about the 213th overall ranking of Cooper Dejean in man coverage. And here's the crazy thing about Cooper Dejean. The problem with Cooper Dejean is he didn't play a ton of man coverage snaps at Iowa. That's not really what their defense is predicated on. That's why I knew he would be a good fit in Philadelphia, because they're a heavy zone team. He's used to running zone. To be specific about it, to where you had 176 coverage snaps for Kelee Ringo, you only had 64 for Cooper Dejean. Okay, he was graded out as 63.7, pretty similar grading actually to Kelee Ringo the year prior. He was only targeted 8 times and gave up 2 completions for a 25% completion rate. It's nothing. 19 yards, nothing. Okay, he gave up 10 yards of yak. His average depth of target was 14 yards, so they were trying to carry him a little vertical. He gave up a long of only 12 yards, was the longest completion gained on him. He had 1 forced incompletion, which was 1 pass breakup for 13% forced incompletion rate. We were only dealing with 8 targets, guys. It's not going to be a ton of data there for that, right? Didn't give up any touchdowns. All right. Opposing quarterbacks only had a 39.6 passer rating. So a 40-something against Kelee Ringo, a 39.6 against Cooper Dejean in man coverage. His snaps per target were 7.9, and his snaps per reception, 31.5. Like, I mean, the young man was pretty good from what I can see here in that coverage. Now, I get them being a little hesitant here because we're dealing with very minimal numbers. We're judging eight true targets against him is all we're judging, to be quite honest. All right. Cooper Dejean, 3 tackles. He did have 1 missed tackle for a 25% missed tackle rate. That doesn't make sense for him to get dropped down that far just because of a missed tackle. Like, that would be quite extreme to me, right? But we can see right away, Cooper Dejean and Kelee Ringo, when put in man coverage, Cooper wasn't asked to do it a whole lot. Cooper does have, both Cooper Dejean and Kelee Ringo, I think, do have a little issue with hip fluidity. Cooper Dejean is very instinctful, though. Coop sees the game. He sees the game really well. Like, I'm going to say it for like the 4th day in a row, guys. There was a whip route on his tape that I was watching where he got beat on a whip route, but instead of trying to recover and get over the top of the receiver, he made a really smart play. He read the quarterback's eyes, cut underneath of it, took the ball away. Like, that's the kind of player he is, where Kelee Ringo, there's a little bit more athleticism, physical presence. They're both pretty big guys. They're both, 6'1-ish, 6'2-ish, around that 200-pound mark. They're both pretty physically imposing guys for secondary players when I say that. But I would say Kelee Ringo's a little bit more, they're both athletic, but Kelee Ringo's kind of a different type of athlete. Neither of them are the greatest in hip fluidity. I think both of them fit as kind of, if you're going to play them on the outside, I think they both fit better in the boundary than they do inside of that field corner spot. But, look, both of them have experience playing as a field corner. Cooper Dejean played a lot of field corner at Iowa. I don't think that's his best spot. That's also probably why you don't see a lot of man coverage snaps for Coop. But I'm going to go back, all right? And we're going to take a look at Quinyon. Because Quinyon is the guy that's going to make a ton of sense, guys, in terms of why they might be trying to play him inside. So that was like really the first thing I looked at is when I'm looking at this, what I'm looking at is simply on a decision-making level. What leads you to look at a guy like Quinyon Mitchell and say, you know what? This dude's not coming off the field. We're going to carry him inside. If we got to carry him inside as a nickel corner in nickel packages where he's playing inside, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. What would give you the feeling? What can you show? What can you point to that would, lead you to believe he could be successful doing that? Number one, if you look at the tape, guys, Quinyon Mitchell is very different from Cooper Dejean and Kelee Ringo in that hip fluidity. I think he fits. I know he's going to play boundary corner this year, and he'll be just fine there. He's plenty tall enough, weighs enough. He's got enough arm reach there. He could play that without a problem. But I think his hip fluidity is more reminiscent of Darius Slay. He's a much more fluid mover. Okay. He fits better, in my opinion, as a field corner. With that said, can he man up? Can he man you up? What can he do if you put him in man coverage? Well, last year, I already told you the year prior, he ranked 11th overall. Last year, he ranked 10th overall. 10th overall in terms of man coverage snaps. Let me go over the data here. All right. In man coverage. Hang on. It's got me on the wrong season. Let me go here. Sorry, guys. In man coverage, how many coverage snaps did he see? So Quinyon Mitchell played 111 coverage snaps in man coverage. So not as much as what we saw from Kelee Ringo in Georgia. Definitely more than what we saw in terms of coverage snaps from Cooper Dejean at Iowa. So he's kind of in that middle with Toledo, right? All right, he was graded out as an 85.8, which was the 10th highest graded guy in man coverage from last year's draft class. Well, not even draft class, last year's entire NCAA football. He was targeted 20 times, gave up 5 receptions for a 25% reception rate. Well, man saw targets. He just shut it down. Gave up a total of 57 yards. 1 yard of yak. His average depth of target was 11.2 yards. The longest completion that was gained on him was 28 yards, which is significant to be fair. Okay. He forced 6 incompletions on 6 pass breakups for a 30% forced incompletion rate in man coverage. Let me read that to you one more time, guys. He forced 6 incompletions with 6 pass breakups for a 30% forced incompletion rate. Okay. He dropped 2 interceptions in man coverage. Not the greatest number in the world to have. You want to make those catches, don't get me wrong, but we can see he's around the football. Opposing quarterbacks had a 39.6 passer rating against him, just like Coop. All right. His snaps per target, much higher at 5.2. So he was targeted more than Kelee Ringo. He was targeted more than Cooper Dejean in man coverage. But how many receptions did he give up in that same sentence, guys? Okay. So snaps per reception. We're going to go down here to Quinyon. 20.8. Basically, every 21 snaps, someone got him for, essentially a reception. He had 5 tackles in man coverage, didn't miss any of the tackles, had a 0% missed tackle rate. Recorded 2 stops in man coverage. That's why they want to play him where they're playing him all over the field, guys. That's how good he is. That's what this young man's coming into looking like. Quinyon's a guy that I'm excited to see the ceiling of this guy because I'm not too sure that I know what it is yet. I know he's going to be a good player in the league, right? But there's a defining line between like good player, solid, number one corner on most teams, blah, 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 blah. And then there's that difference between then there's those dudes. There's those top like 10, 12 corners in the league. Those dudes are hard to find in draft classes. Those dudes are hard. I think there's a chance for Quinyon to get up there, man. I think Quinyon could get to that top 10, 12 range, guys. I think he can be that type of player. I definitely think if you look at some of the raw data points on this young man, you watch his tape, you see how this young man plays. The fact that this dude is a rookie, and they said, not only can he play outside, play this young man inside. Are you kidding me? Anywhere I can put this kid on the field, he's going on the field. Like, this kid is a straight up lockdown corner. This kid is a SHIT talker. Like, he's out there yapping up with AJ, talking all this stuff to AJ, right? You've heard all the reports about Vic Fangio and how hard Vic Fangio has been on players, right? In his critiques. He's been really, really hesitant to give out, crazy appraisal, praiseworthy stuff about players, right? Like, he's trying to keep things focused. Yeah, these guys are working, man. They're doing some good things. But this. Vic always does that but thing, right? He always tells you, yeah, however, you got to get better here. We know what he said about Quinyon. Yes and yes. Is he ready? Yes. Can this kid play? Oh, yeah. Like, is he ready and is he going to play a lot? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, come on, man. This kid is good. This Quinyon Mitchell young man, he's going to be a really good ball player, guys. He's the young man I'm really excited to see play in this game because I think he can be a guy that can be a really big difference maker here. Because simply put, like, I'm not sleeping on the Green Bay receiving core. That is a good receiving core. They don't have that dog out there. There's no dog out there like an A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. They don't have receivers to that level yet. But what they got is 3 dudes that would start on any team. Any one of those dudes, you put them on another team, they're getting snaps, right? They'll find a way of utilizing that. All 3 of these guys can play inside, outside on their team. Now, I will say that not all their, I think Jaden Reed's a little shorter in stature. But like, Romeo Doubs is a pretty big receiver. Christian Watson, pretty big receiver. Like that. I mean, they got guys with some height there. They got guys with speed. They got really good route runners. They got guys that give you versatility inside and outside. I think a player like Quinyon Mitchell, where you can carry him inside, outside, that's important, man. I want to see these dudes play. I want to see these dudes match up. I want to see Quinyon on, like, it, this is adequate competition. Like, this is going to help Quinyon in the film room. He's not going to win every snap tonight. He's not. What he is going to be able to do is he's going to be able to take this film, go to the film room and go, oh, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. I got to test that right out the gate against a really good offense. I'm going to get better. Wait till we hit Atlanta next week. I'm going to be this much better than I was the week before. And I think that's the important part here, right? You got Kelee Ringo, you got Quinyon Mitchell, you got Cooper Dejean, you got these young core players. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. Then you build in with the veterans on the team. You got Darius Slay out there who's a veteran, man. Darius Slay is not a bad player. Like, is Darius Slay what he was a few years ago for us? No, he's not that guy no more. Still a really good football player. Good leader out there. CJ Gardner-Johnson. Whew. Important to get that guy back. The one thing I'll say about Reed Blankenship is the dude will fight for you, man. Reed's the guy who's going to fight for you. Do I think he's the most gifted athlete out there on that field? No, he's not. He's really instinctual, though. You can tell that he's played safety for a long time. You can tell that he was at Middle Tennessee State for a really long time, to be clear. This is going to be an interesting matchup, man, for their receivers on our corners, what we can do with these young guys, how we match them up. I know I had some concerns earlier in the week when you guys were asking me when it was about Isaiah Rodgers, and you were like, hey, man, with Slay and Isaiah Rodgers, are you concerned with guarding the flats? I think EZ asked me that, and I was like, yeah. Like, yeah, of course I am. Like, that's a problem, man. Like, both of those guys don't particularly love to tackle. I mean, Isaiah Rodgers gives you effort. I think Slay's got the physical ability to come up and stick somebody. I just don't think it's not Slay's game. That's not what he enjoys doing. He wants to be the guy that when you look at the stat sheet, doesn't give up a reception, right? I think he would trade that. I think he would trade in that JJ game, Justin Jefferson game, where he shut Justin Jefferson down over any game where he's coming up in the flats with like crazy numbers, 2 or 3 tackles for loss, even though like statistically speaking, you can make the argument that, hey man, coming down and sticking the flats is pretty dang important. That's not his game. You know what I mean? Kelee, that's Kelee's game. Kelee will get physical with you, bro. I like Kelee's. I like the dog in him. And I know Kelee will get beat. Like at some point, Kelee's going to get beat in this game. Like Kelee's he's still learning. He's the youngest of these dudes. I know he's got the most experience because he's been in the league last year. He's the youngest of these guys. Straight up the youngest of them. Kelee's a guy that I think could be pretty important to watch, right? And then you got to also ask yourself this question that we haven't asked in this community yet. Okay. we were all a little up in the air. A lot of you guys who I know some of you guys, I know how big of fans you are of some of the players because I get the opportunity to see you guys speak a lot about some of these players. And I know that some of you guys on here were really, really high on Eli Ricks. So the question is, Eli Ricks, another young guy, you know, an injury coming out here. We already talked about the fact that you could potentially have Cooper Dejean taking snaps. You could have Kelee Ringo. Like, is Eli Ricks a guy that could potentially, you know, take in some snaps because he played a lot last year? I don't think Eli's ceiling is as high as some of the other guys. I think Ringo's ceiling is really, really high, to be quite honest. I think Cooper Dejean is the most instinctful if you're going to play him inside. I think he's the best one in terms of being able to have those zone eyes. I think Quinyon is definitely your best player. Like, Quinyon's definitely your best player right now. It's going to be interesting, guys, because if our secondary can hold up against this Packers offensive line, bro, they got to win. They have got to win. This D-line has got to beat this freaking O-line. If we are giving them plenty of time to get home with pressure, we got to win this game. I mean, Jalen Carter's got to be disruptive, simply put, right? Josh Huff, not Josh Huff, Bryce Huff. We gave Bryce Huff some cash, man. He got paid by us. We gave him what the Jets weren't willing to give him, not only in money, but opportunity. Prove us right. Prove us right, Bryce. It's time to prove us right in this game, right? Josh Sweat, the whole world thinks that the second half is really who you are and that, the knee's kind of coming back to haunt you now. You're falling off. Is that true? Or are you about to really show back up against a guy that was a 7th round pick, big dude, a guy a lot of us like, to be quite honest, coming out of that draft class a couple of years ago. But nonetheless, this is a 7th round pick coming out of Penn State. You should be better than. You're more gifted than he is. You should be able to get a pass rush on him, Josh Sweat. You know, Brandon Graham, the elder statesman, come on, man. You got all these young dudes up here on this offensive line. You should eat, Brandon. You should eat as long as you're being kept fresh. Like, that's the thing is, like, you know, Nolan Smith. Come on, man. You lucked your way into a couple sacks. Can you find your way into one during this game? I don't care if you get lucked into it or not, as long as it counts as a sack and it's a big disruption. That's all I care about. Just disrupt it, man. That D-line's got to show up tonight. That D-line, you know, we need to see what we saw in 22 to where our secondary and our D-line were in sync with one another. Because if one of those two is off, basically by the end of the season, they're both going to be off. It's hard to hold up if one's not helping the other out. Like, no matter how good your D-line is, if your secondary just cannot hold coverage, you're in trouble because teams are going to adjust to you really quickly and they're just going to beat your pressure. You know, if you're doing a good job on the back end and you're holding up in coverage, well, when you got guys like Jordan Love who can go, you know, just like Jalen Hurts, he can go off schedule, right? Now he's going outside of the structure of the offense. He can burn you that way, right? Now you're asking, you know, you're not getting a pass rush on him, and now you're asking your secondary to hold up forever, and now you're turning it into a scramble drill. That definitely favors the offense in the scramble drill. They've got to play in sync with one another, guys, right? I'm okay with our linebackers giving up some dink and dunk stuff. Just don't give up huge plays. Don't give up the huge play. Don't be caught on a running back 30 yards down the field and he's got 2 steps on you. Don't be that tonight, for the love of God. You give up a 7-8 yard completion underneath, whatever. Whatever. Tighten up. Tighten up when they cross the 50. Shut it down. Oh, man, this is a good game, guys. I am heavily I had a pretty good night betting last night, to be honest. I am heavily involved in the betting on this game tonight, guys. I got some bets coming in on this game because I think this is going to be another really good game. I thought last night's game was really good. I think tonight's game is going to be really good. Now, I don't love them playing this in Brazil, to be quite honest. Not that I think there's anything wrong with Brazil. I've been there myself. I do tend to agree with people who are saying, like, man, the safety things are being a little blown out of proportion. I didn't feel unsafe when I was in Brazil. But to be fair, I also am not walking around like A.J. Brown with stacks in my pocket. You know, I had a little bit of, walk around money when I was there, but I don't have A.J. Brown level walking around money. So, I mean, I get that there's some differences when you're dealing with players compared to, there's a difference in wealth there, obviously. With that said, like, these are 2 back-to-back really good games. This game has importance, right? I mean, look, if you lose a game, it's at the end of the season? No. But I'm also not going to sit here and act like that game doesn't have importance to the outcome of the season. You got 2 teams that are potentially, teams that can fight for a 1 seed in the NFC. You got a head-to-head matchup. This was supposed to be a home game, and it's not. It's not really. It's a neutral site game. It's out of the country. There's a lot of travel stuff going on with this. Makes it difficult. Now, you could say, like, Steve, you got a veteran team here, man, with, Darius Slay, CJ Gardner-Johnson's there, you got, Brandon Graham, you got Lane Johnson, you got, Mulata. You got a veteran team, man. Like, the Eagles should be prepared for this type of environment. I get it. Still, this game has meaning, guys. I mean, you don't want to be down one in the conference. You don't want to be down one inside the NFC. You don't want to be down one in conference games because these things do have meaning, man. I'm ready, guys. I'm ready for tonight, bro. Fort, did you check your organ system Brazil trip? I think they're all there, man. All right, guys, let's get to some comments. What's up, James? How you doing, buddy? JLU game day. I know, man. I'm excited, bro. After I jump off of here today, I'm going to have to go and get the food ready and everything. I got the baby hanging out with me today. She's doing better, but we're going to have to go to the grocery store later on, and I got to pick some stuff up for the game. What's up, Chin? How you doing, bro? Excited to see the young guys play. Me too. I'm excited to see this young secondary play. Joe said, good morning, y'all. Please hit that like button for Coach Steve. Hey, man, I appreciate you, Joe. Some Black Ninja said, what do you think about the whole Dean situation? We talked about it pretty extensively yesterday, Some Black Ninja. If you go to yesterday's live stream, I mean, I went in depth about what it is, what it's not. I mean, ultimately, Some Black Ninja, I don't control what they do from a personnel standpoint. I don't think they just awarded Nakobe Dean the job. I think he legitimately won it. I kind of made some points on there where I said that even though things look the way they look right now, if you're going to carry Devin White on your roster, he's going to have a role. Like, he's not a special teams player, so he doesn't make the greatest sense as a breaking case of emergency guy. Like, he's going to have some kind of role. Now, what that role constitutes and how many snaps that is on a per game basis, I think is really up for debate, Some Black Ninja. But I do think that, we got to pay attention to how Vic actually utilizes pressure, right? I think Vic's going to be a little bit more in the realm of like replacement blitz. He's going to try to create pressure more than just allow guys to win on pressure, to win on a 4-man rush. I do think you're going to see Vic try to create a little bit more than we've seen other coordinators in the past. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get a lot of blitzes. I don't think you're going to get a lot of 5-6-man blitzes. I think you'll get replacement stuff. You kick one guy out into coverage and you bring another guy from another direction, right? We talked about the fact that you can play, like Bond. Bond was an edge player in college at Wisconsin. You can, and they used to do this with Kaiser White a little bit. Back in 22, they did this a few snaps. You can overhang him. You can overhang Bond, and then you stay into like a 4-2-5 structure. So then you got your two off-ball backers, which would be Nakobe Dean and Devin White. So, I mean, there are things like that you can do. It's just, trying to figure that on a per snap basis. Like, that's kind of tough. I don't know if I have the answer for that yet. But I do think there are ways for him to still be a part of it. And, like, obviously if he gets cut or gets traded, then that resolves itself. But, I can't see how you coordinate an active 46 as we go forward with him on the roster, him on the active 46, and then he has no role. It wouldn't make any sense. In my opinion, Some Black Ninja, sorry, Daryl. In my opinion, that's Oren Burks' role. He's a breaking case of emergency guy who's a really good special teams player, right? Got some previous experience playing in the league at linebacker. He's that guy. You know what I mean? So there's got to be some kind of role there. Something's got to be in mind. Daryl said Kelee is the youngest player. My bad, Daryl. He is equivalent of a third highly rated rookie. Kelee more like 215, sub 4.4. As a defensive coordinator for Green Bay, what or who are you looking to attack and test in the secondary? I don't know, Ray, if I would start from the secondary. I think you're going to have to live a little bit in the secondary. Their scheme is very man dependent. We'll see if they switch it up because of how good we are at beating man. So we'll see if they switch that up a little bit because A.J. Brown's really good at doing that. But I think they're going to try to hang their hats on like, look, we got one of the game's better corners. We know we're going up against A.J. Brown. He's going to win some. We're just hoping he doesn't win enough to completely disrupt the entire game plan, that we can keep this somewhat in check. And I think you man up across the board, and I think you're going to see them. I think you're going to see a lot of stunt type blitz stuff. You'll see some blitzes here and there, and I think you'll see a lot of stunts on 4-man rushes where they're not blitzing. I think you're going to see some stunting from this particular line, to be quite honest. They're aggressive. This is a Jim Schwartzian. When I broke it down, Ray, I told everybody the origins of this defense, of Hafley's defense, is the 43 Miami, which was brought into the league by Jimmy Johnson. from Dallas. He's running that front. It's that. Now they run it from primarily nickel, just like we run our fronts primarily from nickel. So they run a lot of 4-2s, 4-2-5 stuff out there. But it's the same concept, right? I mean, it's a lot of the stuff we saw from Schwartz. Schwartz ran a very similar, scheme here. So I mean, yeah, they're going to have lighter, faster flowing players. 41 watching, only 13 likes. Appreciate you guys. All these national clowns picking the Packers. I like that. James said, let's go. CJ Gardner is a dog. Yep. Daryl says, Slay's still fast. Yeah, he's still got them feet, man. He can run. Slay quick. He's real quick. Am I the only one who thinks that Kelee doesn't see the ball well enough? I think he sees it perfectly fine. I mean, he had that problem last year in the preseason. Looks like he's kind of turned that around. Yo, am I so pumped up? Let's go. I hear you, man. Steve, how do you think Barkley will do overall? I believe he could be the biggest weapon for Hurts. I think he's going to have somewhere between 75 and like $110 in total yards between rushing and receiving. I do think, it's going to depend upon what they do schematically to us, Joe. Like they were asking earlier, like, what would you do? I would probably try to control the run game in Hurts off of RPO stuff, off of zone reads. And I would try to make sure that doesn't dominate the game. Because if you let Barkley and Hurts dominate the game and we start putting you down by double digits, it's going to be really hard to climb back in because it's going to be a ball control thing. Like you're going to get ball controlled. So for me, it's like I'd rather get myself involved in a shootout if I have to than have them just run clock on me. Fort said the book of Eli versus the book of Job. Daryl said Bryce 2 sacks tonight. Love will be looking for Bryce. Did I check my organs? Definitely need to win tonight. Yeah, I think it's more important than people are letting on. Like I said, it's not the end of the season if you lose a game, but I'm not going to sit here and act like losing a conference game to another competitor has no weight, no meaning. Like, yeah, it does. I hate that this is week 1 on a neutral site out of the country. Like, that kind of stinks, but it is what it is. They still got to go out there and compete, unfortunately. Eagles are now 4th youngest roster from last year's 12th oldest. My guy, daddy duty today. Yeah, I have to. Yeah. Q on the outside, Maddox to the slot would be my move. Man, I wanted to see Isaiah Rodgers go to work. What's up, Keisha? You probably will, Antonio. You probably see him come back. I don't think he's going to be completely cooked, but it depends. I mean, if Kelee has a really good game tonight, then it does make it kind of interesting, right? Jeffrey said, hey, coach, who do you think the Eagles will add as a 3rd tight end? Can't go into the season dressing only 2 per game. I think they're going to do some call-ups. I wouldn't be shocked if you don't see Jack. I was about to say Jack Driscoll, another former Eagle, but Jack Stoll called up from the practice squad. I think they'll exhaust their call-ups in that way. Joseph, Steve, what happened to Devin White only a few years ago? He appeared to be a beast. Did he get injured or just exposed for weaknesses? A little bit of everything, Joe. He did get injured. He did suffer some injuries, and I do think that hampered some of his production. I think he's a really good man coverage linebacker to where if you got to have him carry with like a running back or something, like he's athletically gifted. So, I mean, he does pretty well in that, but I don't know that he has the best zone eyes. We kind of talked about this yesterday to where, like, I think it was EZ may have brought this up. We were talking about it, and I said, I think he's really good in man coverage, but I kind of get your point in zone. I don't think he always gains the proper depth. I don't think he always sees things the best in terms of being in zone. But, yeah, I mean, you have to be careful because you don't want certain guys matched up one-on-one getting carried down the field. And I do think that was something he protected you against, but, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say what's going on with Devin White. What's up, John? How you doing, buddy? He says, good morning. Go Birds. Time to show the world. Raj said, good morning, Steve. Give some hope on this defense, please. What's up, Samuel? How you doing, buddy? He says, good day, Steve. Continue doing you, sir. An absolute, genuine, positive Eagles influencer. Thank you very much. Hey, I appreciate that, Sam. Cornelius said, hey, Gates, who should get the other outside corner start, and how are you doing? I'm doing well, Cornelius. Thanks for asking, buddy. I hope you are. I I think it depends on, we were talking about this earlier a little bit, Cornelius, about like how you want to approach this. Like, I think the interesting outside play that no one's talking about that would be really, it would be really funny if it happened just because no one would see that, no one really predicted it, would be if Eli Ricks got the start, just because no one's really talked about that. I want to throw that out there just in case it happens. Like, I'm aware of the possibility. I just don't think that's where they're going to go personally. I think it'll probably be Kelee. I think Kelee Ringo will likely get the start outside. I think if Cooper Dejean had been involved more in camp, he probably could have been in the making for potentially starting out there. But, he got injured and he primarily only pretty much covered the slot during his time there. So they're probably going to keep him with where he's familiar right now. I would guess that Quinyon will start in base. And then when they go to that nickel, that becomes your question. Do they keep Quinyon out there in nickel now because they have the injury? Or, if they kept Quinyon there, then you could pull Avonte down, pull Cooper Dejean down, pull Eli Ricks down. Even Eli Ricks played some nickel last year. You could do something like that. Or you could move Quinyon inside like your game plan was, and you could put Kelee on the outside. I mean, that's going to be probably your the likelihood of things happening is either Eli Ricks is like the underdog and nobody sees that could potentially have that spot tonight, or, they're going to keep Q out there permanently. Q's going to be out there for the entire game on the outside, and they'll bring either Avonte down or they'll bring Cooper Dejean down into the slot, or Eli Ricks even down into the slot since he played. Or, you kind of stick with the game plan, which is Q in the slot, and then you take, Kelee Ringo and you put Kelee Ringo on the outside. We must cover Jacobs running hot routes. Green Bay wide receivers don't scare me. Great test for our DB. Yeah, they're really good receiving group, but they don't have like a dog out there. Like, I think all three of their dudes would definitely make all 32 teams in the league. There's no doubt about that. I think they could even go 4 deep, where you got 4 guys that would absolutely make any roster in the league. But with that said, I don't think they have like an AJ dog. Like, they don't have that level of dog out there. Keisha asked, what will be the answer for the blitz? That's an excellent question, Keisha. Kellen Moore seems to really like these, like where our previous coaching staffs used to love to throw the bubble screen, tunnel screen stuff. Kellen likes to really kind of come back and check it down into like the hook area. So you're going to see a lot of the things that are kind of hooked in between the hash marks, like right on the hash mark. He likes to throw that a lot. I also would, I would look out for those free releases when they're stacking them. If you bring pressure, they might try to create something quickly with a free release. So, they have a stack set and they're just trying to get somebody with a free look, a quick free look for Jaylen to hit. Also, AJ Brown or Devontae Smith in isolation on an inside like slant. So what you don't want to see is, like, at times we were doing stupid things like a diamond slant, trying to throw the ball. Diamond slants where you step out about 3 steps and then you cut it across basically for a slant route. That takes time. Sets the DBs up really nicely, but it takes time. You don't really want to do that when you got somebody breathing down your quarterback's neck with pressure. So hopefully they fix those kind of timing issues inside of the offense conceptually, but you'll see those kind of things. Like, in my opinion, hopefully we see less. I'm not saying you never take a deep shot versus pressure, Keisha, but hopefully they bring that down a little bit. Like, set Jaylen up for success there. Make sure that your built-in hot route stuff makes sense logically in terms of the timing of the play. Because if they're going to, if they're bringing it once in a great while, that's when I think you try to hit them on a vertical deep shot. But if they're bringing it repeatedly, they just keep coming after you, you got to hit those little checkdowns and back them off because they'll get tired. Eventually, they'll be sitting there breathing heavy. They'll be real tired. Future says, Saquon. Eagles Clip says, this defensive line needs to be dominant tonight. I'm with you. I'm with you there. Amen. Emily, what's up? Go Birds. How you doing? A popular stat is no team has won a Super Bowl with a top 5 wide receiver in recent history. I mean, recent history also contains Pat Mahomes. And there were times like, let's be real about Kelsey. Kelsey's been, he's in that conversation. Maybe not a wide receiver, but a top 5 receiving target. He's been around that area. And I would also say that the very first year with Tyreek Hill, Tyreek Hill was in that conversation, for it to be fair. Richie said you can get away with having average safeties. With Rodgers out, I would move Chauncey to slot, Mitchell to CB number 2, Slay to CB number 1, safeties Reed and Tristan McCollum or Maddox. I think Tristan's more of your box guy. I think he's going to be backing up Reed. Maddox would probably be your backup in terms of your post safety. I mean, Richie, there's many ways of accomplishing it. I watched some Boston College games with this defensive coordinator. We're going to kill the middle of the field. His defenses were getting gashed, but he did bring pressure and a lot of stunts. Becting is key. Yeah, they're going to stunt the crap out of us, Antonio. I can tell you that. Just knowing conceptually what that defense is and where its origins lie, like, yeah, the stunts are coming, Antonio. Like, you're on it. You're on it. You saw what I saw when I went to go look. I was like, oh, that's the old Jimmy Johnson crap. They're going to be stunting us to death here. Now, I will say this, like, Becton's got to be smart about picking up who he's supposed to pick up off the stunts. But, man, the middle of that offensive line is really protected with, big Landon Dickerson out there flipping cows. Then you got Cam Jurgens out there wrangling the cows. And you got Mekhi Becton out there saying, cook me the cow. Like, we're protected, man. We are protected in that middle of the offense. There's no doubt about that. We talked about having, like, undersized centers. Well, when you got Mekhi Becton to one side and you got Landon Dickerson to the other side, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're going to be okay. And even Jurgens is smaller for an O lineman, but he's not like Kelsey small. Kelsey was talking about, like, trying to drink water and stuff just to make 290 on the weigh-ins. Like, yeah, yeah, Antonio, we'll see. We'll see how they handle it, but hopefully we don't allow free rushers. That was the problem during the second half of the season. Some of our line slides, I talked about this too, and then you saw Kelsey basically confirm it. I talked about this. Like, they were clearly missing on the line slides at times. And Kelsey admitted, like, yeah, we made mistakes in terms of protection, in terms of the line slides, and we were allowing free rushers to come through. That's got to get cleaned up. We can't be having that tonight. I know on occasion someone's going to come free. It happens, but it can't be to a ridiculous amount like it was last year. Sam said, question, do you see a defensive trend though? Some people have said that they expect a downtick in offensive production this year just based upon some of the rules. We saw last night that stupid they were calling them a formation penalty because you have to be lined up with, like, we call it the gig line, but the belt line of the center. And they got called. What was it, like 5 or 6 flags got called for that? I hope the NFL reviews that because that's just, like, dude, it's stupid. Take that rule out. All it's doing is muddying the game. Like, that was hard to watch during the first quarter because of how many calls they were making on that. Like, dude, make one call, make your point, move on. Like, it's just, they were doing it too much. Yeah, they were doing that too much last night. Joseph Steve, did you watch the game? Oh, yeah, I did. I definitely did. Crazy ending. Yeah, I thought Likely had it at first, and then I kind of looked, and I was like, oh, boy, that's going to be close. It does look like his toes out. I noticed that they are cracking down on the – oh, yeah, that's what I was just saying, Joe. Exactly. And on the tackles lining up in the backfield, I'm hoping Lane is taking note. It probably helped that we weren't the very first team to go. So I'm pretty sure that got brought up today. I'm pretty sure that they were in a group text. I'm pretty sure these guys are in group text with one another. I'm pretty sure they were kind of communicating like, oh, boy, we better make sure we're lined up correctly. We're going to get a lot of penalties tonight. Yeah, those things are drive killers. That's the worst part about it, Joe, is they'll kill your drive. Keisha said, because the Packers defensive coordinator said he will be bringing the blitz and pressure, I just hope Jaylen can read that before he throws and he's faster on his reads. I think it's going to help that he's going to be responsible for setting the protections. I think Kelsey kind of alluded to this, but he didn't outright state it, Keisha, when he was talking about it. And one of the things that Kelsey's trying to say is like there's a vantage point that you get as a quarterback that you don't get as a center, right? As a center, you can see, he can pick up on cues, like, he can see the discoloration in guys' knuckles to know if they're coming or if they're going to, basically the way they're holding their hands, if they're coming or if they're going to be staying back on something. So he can see stuff like that. He understands from the tape when he sees someone do a certain action or certain thing, he knows pretty much what's coming in terms of the blitz. Like those are the things that Jaylen will have to learn through tape and just experience. But in terms of seeing the full field aspect of the way they're playing the back on their coverages based off of that and being able to slide your protection, that's a vantage point the quarterback gets that, your center doesn't. So I do think it will help in that perspectives. Fly Park said, Steve, what are your expectations out of the defense tonight? Hold this game to under 24 or fewer points. This is a good offense, keep it on 24, points. And I think you have a shot here. I'm going to give them a little leeway because this is the first game underneath Vic. You got a lot of young guys who are going to play important roles. We got a lot of things that we're learning about the defense. I want to see pressure, though, Fly. I want to see them at least make Jordan Love a little uncomfortable back there. I would love to see them create a turnover tonight. Fumble recovery, an interception. Just give me a turnover. I would love to see them create a turnover, right? Give me some pressure, create a turnover, get the kinks out, work the kinks out. Try to keep this game to 24 points or less, and we got a legitimate shot at winning this thing. Describes Lamar's game last night. Hurts better stay more in the pocket. I think some of that was circumstantial to what was going on in terms of the gameplay. I mean, to be fair, Richie, he also threw for over 250 yards, and he rushed for over 100. I mean, Lamar played pretty well overall. I will say their offense was a lot of check down to the backs. I didn't particularly love Richie from there. I thought outside of Isaiah Likely, they lack, I will say it's really hard to defend Lamar Jackson and what they were able to add there in terms of the run game and like with Derrick Henry there. And like, it is really difficult to defend them like that. But on the receiving threats, Mark Andrews didn't look right to me yet. He didn't look like that same guy yet. Isaiah Likely looks like he's going to be a good player, to be real. I thought Zay Flowers missed an opportunity for an easy freaking touchdown in the end zone, where I don't know what was the miscommunication there, Richie, but something got miscommunicated there. I don't know that we'll see. I mean, it's hard to judge off of week one. I guess you got to give it a little bit more time to see how some of those receiving targets work their way out. But I thought Lamar had to do a lot in terms of the passing game to kind of set them up for success. Damn Likely. Yeah, Isaiah. Yeah, he was really good. Likely was really, really good. Some Black Ninja said, would it be dumb to put AJ in a screen pass sometimes, throw the defense off, and have the two tight ends block for him? It just depends. I mean, depends on how they react to it. If they pick up on the fact that you got AJ and two tight ends to one side, they might snip that out a little bit. But it also depends on like how much you're putting it on film. Some Black Ninja, right? It's about managing it. If you're not putting a lot of film out there of you doing that, then I don't think it's as easy to pick up on it. You know what I mean? There's going to be some screen game. That's one thing I saw from his, and yeah, they will use 12 personnel and do it. They will definitely hit some screen game stuff. I expect to see Devontae off of that a little bit tonight. Richie, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, but that's a really good point. That there was no hip drop tackle penalty called last night. I can't remember off the top of my head right now if there was even anything questionable in terms of the hip tackle last night. I don't remember anything in my head popping up about it, but I wasn't paying that close attention to it. But yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember there being a call on that either. I hate the illegal formation rule. Yeah, it's stupid, Joel. They need to just overturn that, man. And the illegal man downfield, I just don't see why they are penalties. The illegal man downfield, I think they just need to expand it a little bit more. It used to be like 3 yards, now it's 1.5 yards. The reason they did that was because of RPOs. that's why they tightened it up from like 3 yards to now it's like, I think it's like 1.5 yards or something like that, Joe. Yeah, the illegal man downfield thing with the blocking that they called last night was really a timing issue. That got Bateman called on that. It was a timing issue. Lamar Jackson didn't handle pressure well enough, I thought. What is happening when the Birds right tackle looks back at Jaylen prior to the snap? Sometimes, you're talking about furthest, sometimes because he's playing towards the field side, guys, that can be the furthest away, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the offensive lineman to Jaylen. Sometimes he's probably just checking to make sure he's getting the snap count. But to be fair, most of the time, Daryl, the way Lane plays it, he's looking at the ball. That's when he's going off his snap. Now, he could be looking for slide adjustments. He might be looking for an adjustment. Because now, with that being in Jaylen's hands, I would imagine there's got to be some communication back and forth between those two guys, because he's got to know if Jaylen called like a 3-man line slide to the right. He's got to know, like, okay, me, blah, 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 center. Basically, me from the center, we got to slide. Yeah, he has to know those type of things. And Joe said, yeah, Daryl, I'm thinking that Likely got picked up on a lot of fantasy leagues after last night. He had a career game. Yeah, man, I'm hating myself. I had a funny bet where I just put like $2.99. I just, I was just kind of picking things. And the only thing that held me off from winning like almost $300 off of $2.99 was instead of playing likely over plus 50 yards, my stupid self played Andrews, and like that was just a waste of $2.99. Likely is now the tight end one. Andrews on the trade block next season. Can the Eagles rookie Wilson be likely? I don't know. I mean, I think Wilson's role is going to be a little different from Isaiah Likely, but the physical size and his ability to kind of like go up there and take balls away on the perimeter, not take balls away, but catch balls on the perimeter. I mean, that part of his game, Richie, sure, absolutely. Being a threat down in the red zone, sure. Would you run the ball more or throw it more, and what should our game plan be? I think you have to let the defense dictate a little bit of that stuff, Cornelius. Now, I mean, early on in the game, I would come out and establish a run, and I would try to see what they're doing. I would want to see how they're going to play off of us. You know what I mean? I would definitely run early on just to see how they're going to play off of us. My guy Trey Brown came with a $1.99 super chat. Man, I appreciate that, buddy. He said Jalen Carter is the key to the entire season. Yeah, Jalen Carter is probably defensively our best player right now. Our overall best player. Yeah, I think Jalen's going to be a really good player. Still a very close game. I believe so as well. I got Andrews in fantasy, gave me 3 points. Should I pick up Likely? Yeah. I said Andrews cost me like $300 last night. Ravens were a quarter pinky toe away from a tutty. Yeah. That catch was oof. It was hard to see him miss that one, man, because that was about as close as you can get without making the catch. I was hoping it went to overtime, too. I was like, I might be able to get this bet. Lamar definitely decided to run too quickly. He didn't give his wide receivers much time to get open, in my opinion. Did Derrick Henry look slow, or is it me? Hopefully Barkley looks good. I don't think the line blocked the greatest for him, to be honest. Gate, do you trust Kelee Ringo? Won't know until we're out there, Cameron. I mean, he's got to get a shot to play. I don't know until we're out there. This is going to be one of Ringo's biggest games of his football career. The one thing I do trust Ringo on is in the short zone. When it's coming down, they throw it out to the flats on the backside. Ringo's a good player out that way. Like that's Ringo's strength. He'll be pretty good at that. I definitely think he helps you. I think he helps you there. But we'll see. I mean, I'm putting Ringo on Watson personally. Size and speed. Wilson is faster. Got to make the throws when it counts. Lamar had 2 chances and missed, Likely on the corner, and Flowers in the middle of the end zone. No, that wasn't Dawad. That wasn't Lamar missing Flowers. That was Flowers missing the route concept correctly. That was a bad route by Flowers. And what happens a lot of times, Dawad, is they have rules for like what you're supposed to do in certain situations. And I think it was a miscommunication between the rules and the concepts for the scheme and then what basically became of it from Lamar and Flowers in that end zone play. But that was rough, man. That was rough because that was definitely a play that could have potentially made the outcome a little differently. What kind of bets did you do, Gates? To go looking for some help. Fly Eagles fly. There are different ways you can do you can do different bets. You can do like the EV plus bet. So you're basically playing against Vegas's odds and you're letting Vegas basically play themselves. So basically what you do is you go to like Pinnacle or another sports book that's really dependable and you see how they set the odds. And then you look at these guys like BetMGM and all those, and you see where there's a difference between the odds and you bet it. Now there's some other math that goes into that. You have to learn a little bit, but that's like one of the things you do. The other thing is like, if you're going to play a parlay, only play parlays on games that you have some familiarity with. Like, you don't want to play a parlay on a game that you just don't quite know the team. You don't know their scheme that well, stuff like that. I will play a lot of parlays when it comes to the Eagles because I understand the offense pretty well. So like when it comes to the Eagles, like, yeah, I got a lot of parlays set up in that game. I have to be quite frank, I don't know if it'll come true, but I have a 4-leg parlay tonight that I put $100 on that if I hit for almost $5,000. It's like over 4,900. Is Ringo on the outside or is Q tonight? That's a great question, Fly Parks. I mean, I'm going to assume that they're going to go as business as usual. Q will slide in as a nickel, and then they'll keep Ringo on the outside when they go, inside of nickel. The only reason I say that, and we don't know. I mean, to be fair, Fly, I could be wrong about this. The only reason I say that is because it doesn't require any further adjustments in your game plan. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, you could say like, well, let me just keep Q on the outside. Let's move Maddox down into the slot, or let's move, a guy like Cooper down there, give Cooper his shot. Let Eli Ricks move down into the slot. You could do that as well. If Ringo plays lights out, you think they keep him at quarterback too even when Rodgers heals up? That's a great question, Cameron. That's what I was proposing earlier. I think it's definitely an opportunity for Ringo. I mean, if he goes out there and plays really well against a team like this, I think it's going to bode well for him. I don't know I don't know what promises have been made to Isaiah Rodgers. I can't speak to what the front office and the coaching staff has said to him. So, it's hard to say, but yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity here for Ringo. There's no doubt about that part. What do you think of the kickoff rule last night? Kickers will still told to kick it in the end zone. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, because I mean, you're giving 5 yards extra of leverage if you do that. It's a weird thing to watch, man. It's definitely kind of weird to watch it. Who was favored in our game? I thought I saw Eagles giving 3. The last time I saw in the sports books, Joe, the Eagles were given 2.5. I think I might have. Let me pull it up real quick. I could check for you real fast. So let me see if the FanDuel moved their lines yet. Let's get them home. Let's go to the NFL. 2.5. So FanDuel has their book still set at 2.5. Eagles given 2.5. We need pressure on Love. Do you think Johnny Wilson will have a role on this team this year once he is healthy? I think so. I think he's going to have some sort of role. I don't know how, when you talk about roles, I think it has to come down to what the role is and what that is on a per snap basis. I think right now you can make the argument that unless they activate Paris Campbell, he's the main backup on the outside. So, I mean, I think he does have a little bit of a role. Dante saying, what's up, Gate? Leave a like and subscribe. Appreciate you, buddy. Says, I just don't think Ricks fits the scheme, though. I think he's just way better in a heavy press man scheme. Well, I mean, if he's going to play inside at nickel, I don't know that he's going to press per se, Cameron. You don't normally press there, but he's going to play a lot of man coverage out of nickel. Dante gifted 5 Gate City Sports memberships. Hey, Dante, I appreciate that, buddy. That's awesome, man. Joe said, thank you, Dante. Hang on. Trying to call me while I'm on the live stream. All right, guys. Before I jump off, what's your game plans tonight, man? What y'all doing? What y'all doing for food? What's going on, guys? What y'all got going? Me, I think I'm gonna do some wings. I gotta hit some sides here in a second, but I gotta think of my sides here. Oh, my guy Drew dropped in the $10 super chat. Appreciate it, buddy. Says always enjoy the discussions. Great content, my guy. Looking forward to celebrating a W. Go Birds. What do you see of Jack Driscoll? Is he the future starting right guard next to Lane? I don't know about that with Jack Driscoll, but I do think that he's, he can play. I think he could be, a guy that you could bring up after you utilize his 3 call-ups. You could then bring him up and use him as one of your first off the bench type players. Chicken wings, yeah, same thing, man. Black rum and sangria. Shout out to Coach D. Appreciate it, Joe. Mark said, I'm grilling picana steaks. Oh, okay. You're going with the it's like Argentinian cut, right, Mark? An Argentinian thing, that particular cut. I know it's mostly served in like South America. I actually used to get that sometimes from not Butcher Box. There's another company. Hang on. Piedmontese. Piedmontese on occasion has those steaks. They're pretty good. They're decent. I'm cooking grilled wings with some tequila. Drew said, it will be late over here. DE pumping energy drinks. Oh, man. Yeah. These inside linebackers give me fear tonight. I hope Fangio brings some pressure, get the ball out of Love's hands. Gonna have some cheese head. All right, Jimmy. How you doing, man? All right, guys. Some black ninja said he's going to be grilling up some burgers, some hot dogs, and some brats and smoked mini sausages. Man, you're throwing down. Throwing down, man. Yeah, going with the Brazilian theme. Yeah, I hear you, Mark. Yeah, it's my favorite at the Brazilian steakhouses. Yeah, we only have like one Brazilian steakhouse out my way, Mark, and it's always like you got to like almost make reservations to get in there. It's hard to get in there. I'm doing well, man. Appreciate you asking. Fangio likes too high safeties. Eagles shouldn't give up big plays. Yeah, you'll see some rip and liz. He's going to start off in that too high, Mr. Sandman. I agree with you. He's going to play some quarters early, and then he's probably going to start rotating into that cover 3, cover 9 concept to where he'll rotate into like the rip and liz stuff that you see. We'll start bringing that guy down into the box to play a little bit. They're going to need it because I do think they're going to get challenged in the flats tonight a little bit. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all so much, man. Let's go Birds. I'll let you guys know. I might try to go live. For the game. All right. So just keep your notifications on. I'll try to set it up early if I'm going to go live. And yeah, it's going to depend on what time it ends. Like I need to look at it again because we are playing on Brazil time. So let me see. Let me see if I can get a feel for what time this game would end. Because that would be the problem. 8:15 is not too bad. Yeah, I'll probably set up a live stream, guys, for the game. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Peace. See you guys tonight. And let's go Birds, man. Let's get that 1-0. Get that dub tonight.